against Evan Whitehouse playing Is It Phoenix. These players will be given the green light. Dilks number 2, Whitehouse not on the leaderboard right now, it appears. And we will be underway here in just a moment. Let me give you Dilks. I'll take Evans. Deck list will be up on Cardboard Live shortly if they're not already. And we are going to watch these gentlemen play some Magic. Scalding Tarn to begin here for Evan Whitehouse. Dilks picks up a copy of Sakura Tribe Scout. Gemstone Mine will fall down to 2 mining counters. There is the Tribe Scout, and that one is worth killing if you're Evan Whitehouse.
It's really rare for a deck to play with only 4 creatures that you have to untap with to do anything, and they be your only targets to Lightning Bolt. Amulet Titan does it here because the ceiling is so high on Sakura Tribe Cell. If you untap even for 1 turn, you really advance your mana and accelerate into these very fast and tough to interact with kills.
Whitehouse is going to play a Lightning Bolt to take care of the Tribe Scout. It is worth noting for Evan Whitehouse, no gut shots or surgical extractions in the main deck. They've changed this deck up quite a bit. This is the Team Lotus Box version of the deck. Team Lotus Box having such a great weekend last weekend in Syracuse with Zan taking the trophy home for the team. For Evan and the rest of the team members, they've got 4 copies of Pyromancer's Ascension along with 4 bolts and then 3 main deck copies of Noxious Revival.
Yeah, and once you're on 4 Pyromancer Ascension, 3 Noxious Revival, you've really built something different. The format's gotten away a little bit from being all-in graveyard decks, and there's less humans than there used to be too. And so you see no copies of Surgical Extraction, no copies of Gut Shot, and this is much more of a sort of a combo deck, I would describe it as, rather than sort of the old style extra cards and grind you out with Arc like Phoenix sort of deck.
The argument has always been that Pyromancer's Ascension is the best card in the mirror, and so they've opted to load up on them, but we can't forget that Pyromancer's Ascension is just a very powerful engine in general, and used to engine those Storm decks to victory. So we're going to see a sleight of hand here for Whitehouse. He'll take a look at the top 2 cards and take one of them with him. This other card will go on the bottom. Remember, there's so much manipulation here. You want to make sure you're resolving all of these cantrips accordingly, because Opt is a little different from Sleight of Hand, which is a little bit different than Thought Scour. Evan Whitehouse did turn over a Arclight Phoenix, pardon me, earlier, as there's the Ascension. But now Dilks has a turn uncontested.
Yep.
With an Amulet on the battlefield, not a ton of mana, but let's see what he can put together here. We know this deck can be explosive, and there's few that do it better than Matthew Dilks, the Amulet Titan. That's the reason he's got that 2 next to his name up there on our scoreboard. He's number 2 on the SCG Tour leaderboard as he's going to start things off with a Colony Garden. He'll get a plant token, that land will untap. Can he do better than that as he taps 3 mana? Gemstone Mine's going to fall down to 1. This is Azusa, Lost But Seeking. This is how it gets started. Gemstone Mine is an additional land drop. Tolaria West is another land drop. And Dilks will pass the turn back. So not terribly explosive.
Could have been a lot worse. Dilks without any of the 2 mana lands there to really advance. Still in a position next turn, potentially cast Primeval Titan. But now Whitehouse might have a clean shot at it with Pyromancer's Ascension.
And you do see Whitehouse's hand right there. Sleight of Hand, Faithless Looting, Noxious Revival, and a Scalding Tarn. Now, Evan is known for playing Dredge. He top-8'd our Invitational in the winter at SCGKY winner with Dredge as his modern weapon of choice. So I do wonder how well he knows how to play Is It Phoenix. He's already off to a great start, though, at 4-0. And this will be a sleight of hand to get things started. There is already one of those in the graveyard, so Pyromancer's Ascension will get a counter. And now here's a copy of Noxious Revival while holding priority, it appears.
Yep. So Noxious Revival, it makes it setting up with Pyromancer's Ascension a lot easier. Because if you have 1, you resolve a cantrip, you stack it, you Noxious Revival the cantrip with the same name in the graveyard, you draw the cantrip, and now you're up.
It's pretty cool. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do. At the cost of 2 life and a card, but Noxious Revival can also target other cards in your graveyard, cards in your opponent's graveyard, so it's got some utility in that regard, as Pyromancer's Ascension now has 2 counters on it. So now every spell that's played afterward, there will be multiple copies of it. And again, we know that he's got a copy of Faithless Looting in hand. So this should be interesting. We know that Whitehouse is thinking Faithless Looting, one of the most powerful cards in the format, and he will play it. So first copy is going to resolve. He'll draw 2 and discard 2. Remember, Evan hasn't played a land yet this turn, as he'll discard a land and a thing in the ice. Now it's time for another Faithless Looting, Arclight Phoenix, and Noxious Revival. Okay. I have to imagine Arclight Phoenix will be discarded. I'm curious what the other option will be, though.
I think you need land number 4 here if you want to cantrip again. You could hold the Noxious Revival, but that just seems so mopey to me compared to just playing your 4th land, Serum Visioning twice, getting your threats on the battlefield, and then hoping you get another turn.
Hoping you get another turn is exactly right, because this could spell disaster here for Whitehouse, even though he does have Pyromancer's Ascension online. He's going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, fall a little bit lower. We're going to see a Serum Visions here in just a moment, I'm sure. And we'll see where this takes Evan. There is that Serum Visions. So he'll draw a card, scry 2. Draw another card, looks like another land, scry 2. Looks like Noxious Revival and a land. That's actually a blue card, might be opt. Either way, it's going to the bottom as well. Phoenixes are going to come back. A little surprised with the op going to the bottom?
Yeah, there's not. I would be really surprised by op going to the bottom. Just draw 2 with a lot of selection for 1 next turn.
Sure.
I don't know what you're finding that's better than that from this spot, but
well, he must be looking for something in particular. I got to imagine we're going to see an attack with the birds here in just a second, though. Maybe there's an argument to leaving 1 or 2 of them back. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. If Dilks had it all. So the question is now with the Slayer Stronghold on the battlefield, let's imagine he has land number 6 plus Primeval Titan, which might not even be the case, but let's assume that it is. Is there a way for him to, I guess he can go Vesuva and Boros Garrison, right, and still do it the same way?
There are ways to make it work. Summoner's Pact in hand, he's going to start there. So Primeval Titan is on the way, folks.
I just don't think blocking gets you very far here, and you also have to win the game in the event that Dilks doesn't have Primeval Titan next turn. Like, you know, you need to cut turns out of this game.
Well, it appears Evan agreed with you. So
Yeah.
he did get in there for 6.
It's worth a pause just in case, but I think you just got to get it in there.
Gruul Turf is land 1. That's going to untap because of the amulet, and now Dilks has got a red and a green floating with the Primeval Titan in hand. Looks like he's going to play it again twice, and now he'll play this. I'm sure there's some mana floating for him to be able to activate the Stronghold here in just a moment. So let's see what Dilks can put together. Looks like there's 0 mana floating at this stage, which leads me to believe if that's the case, land 1, land 2, I think he should have 1 land drop left. Boros Garrison and Simic Growth Chamber will enter untapped. 2 triggers there from those bounce lands. You got to pick up a land. Looks like he's going to be picking up Tolaria West and the Colony Garden, giving the Titan haste now.
Puts the Vesuva back in his hand, so even if something happens to Primeval Titan next turn, you have more than enough resources to transmute the Vesuva into Summoner's Pact and do this all over again.
I think he might just have enough for the kill right now.
Yeah, I mean this is just lethal.
He gets Sun Home. Yeah, he's going to double the damage with the Primeval Titan. That's going to be 16 plus 1 is 17. And Matthew Dilks unsurprisingly finds a road to victory. Wins game number 1 here over Evan Whitehouse's Amulet. Titan is up a game here over Is It Phoenix. Got the Pyromancer's Ascension online, but it wasn't good enough to get the win.
Nope. Took a little too long, and really no pressure there. Turn 4, first attack for 6 points of damage. That's just not going to be fast enough. Even with Dilks, Dilks' draw was pretty modest that game. It was not as fast as possible. That's still just way too slow.
For Dilks, that was a turn 4 kill.
Yeah.
And turn 3 Azusa, play a couple lands, turn 4, do your thing.
But a turn 4 kill where they present numerous interaction points along the way, an amulet that you could theoretically blow up, a Tribe Scout, and Azusa, that's on the slower side.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, that's a modest draw.
This deck is much more explosive than that, and yet Dilks was able to get the job done. This deck's so good at finding Primeval Titan and playing it on turn 4 and beyond, and that's what Dilks was able to do. So we will turn our attentions to the sideboard here. And I do want to start here with Evan Whitehouse, who has, well, 2 Blood Moon. We know those are coming in. 2 Alpine Moons as well. 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Abrade, 2 Saheeli Sublime Artificer, a Pia and Kirin Nalar, a Narsat Parter of Veils, a Lightning Axe, and a Spell Pierce.
I would bring in the 2 copies of Blood Moon and the 2 copies of Abrade. Abrade can answer the mana, creatures, or amulet as appropriate. I also don't mind bringing in the Saheelis here to try to speed up the clock a little bit. I don't think Evan can just give them all the time in the world.
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to bring an Alpine Moon in this matchup or not. I certainly haven't played enough of Is It Phoenix to know. Obviously, you're bringing that card in against Tron. I think it's probably not good enough in this particular matchup.
I think part of the problem is It Phoenix can easily lose to Primeval Titan even if they're down the best land to pair with it. Just a 6/6 with that generates that many extra cards is already a problem, so I don't think you can win the fight over hitting Sunholm or whatever. I just don't think is going to be how you win the game.
Let's go to Dilks' side of things, which I think is always a fun thing to look at with his sideboard. Sometimes they've got white cards hanging out, like Consulate Crackdown and Path to Exile. This weekend, not the case. 3 Abrades, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Fire Spout. All right. 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Rook Taw, the Unbowed. A Reclamation Sage, a Raminap Excavator, a Negate, a Hornet Queen, an Engineer Explosives, and a Cavern of Souls. Notable, I do want to check his main deck, too, because I talked to Matt occasionally. I was curious if they were going to work Blast Zone into this deck, and it doesn't look like he has that anywhere in the 75, so not good enough. What do we like here?
So I would bring in, I think I would bring in the Cavern of Souls out of respect for something like Disdainful Stroke, even though not every Phoenix deck has cards like that. I really like the Hornet Queen in this matchup. I'd bring in the Reclamation Sage as a hedge against, Blood Moon in particular, but other sideboard cards as well. And the Rorik Thar seems like a great target to get with Summoner's Pack some amount of the time.
I am curious if you're supposed to bring in Spell Pierce or Negate in this matchup, if you want that kind of interaction against Pyromancer's Ascension or other things.
Well, I think the Reclamation Sage covers you there. That's already a way to answer Pyromancer's Ascension. And the problem is that the cards in the Phoenix deck are so fungible and replaceable. Negating and spell piercing the cantrips is really not that powerful. It's not common for you to even have 2 mana untapped on the second turn because you're sort of setting up your mana and some of your land enter the battlefield tapped. And then you need to win the fight over creatures because that's the thing that's actually clocking you. So if Dilks thinks he's got enough bad cards or he wants to cut out all of his boltable creatures or whatever, I guess I could see it. But without there really being a premier target, I would err on the side of not bringing in the counterspells.
Well, I would argue Blood Moon's a premier target.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
I think those are coming in from Is It Phoenix in some capacity. And I don't really have interest in countering the cantrip so much. It's just this is my protection against Blood Moon ideally because, if we get to the 5th turn of the game and they're trying to play Blood Moon around Spell Pierce, well, I think you've maybe accomplished your goal.
Yep. No, that's fair. That's fair.
But I don't know if he's going to do that or not. We're going to find out as these players shuffle up and get ready here for game number 2. SCG Game Night is where we're headed right now before we get game number 2 underway. For Queen and Country is your exclusive token and sleeve. Did we figure? Well, we tried to figure this out. It's not Beefeater.
I think that's a. I don't know. I don't want to screw it up again.
Kind of want to.
Go.starcgames.com/game night. It's the May kit. Show up. You can go to the website. Find the game night closest to you. Go to your game night and battle for these sleeves and tokens.
Is there somewhere you can just buy that hat?
I'm sure there is.
Right? Like, what if you just had that hat? I'd wear the heck out of that hat. I don't know how it stays on someone's head, though.
Well, it's probably pretty tight around the bottom, is my guess.
All right. It's a pretty good hand here for Dilks. He's got Spell Pierce in the grip.
Okay.
Amulet, Spell Pierce, Azusa, Rook Taw, the Unbowed. We're going to see a little bit of cantrip in here. Serum Visions is where Whitehouse is going to start this game. Over to Dilks we'll go. Probably kick things off with an amulet here, though if he does have the mana, he could obviously just leave it so that he's got blue up for Spell Pierce on turn 2, but it's going to be a Teleria West to start things off here for Dilks. It enters the battlefield tapped as we head over to Whitehouse. 2 mana would be a good time to resolve an Ascension if he's got it. And he does, so there is Pyromancer's Ascension. We head back over to Matthew. Now it's time for an amulet. Now that'll resolve. Simic Growth Chamber will enter the battlefield untapped. There'll be a trigger, make you pick up the Teleria West. And Dilks will pass the turn back with Spell Pierce at the ready. Whitehouse will draw for the turn. Doesn't take much for him to turn on Pyromancer's Ascension as we saw last game. It's actually quite easy, truth be told. Going to start by sacrificing a Scalding Tarn, will Evan. He'll get himself a basic island. And is it an attempt at a Blood Moon here?
Would seem to suggest this is what the turn would look like if you were going to cast Blood Moon.
Yeah. It looks like he's going to start by cantripping instead. It'll be a Serum Vision's trigger. And he actually, he has Blood Moon in hand. And did not cast it. Wow.
Well, his leftovers are 2 copies of Thought Scour, so he can just try to go a little wild here with the Pyromancer's Ascension, and then if Dilks puts the shields down, then you try to land Blood Moon. But no rush. Whitehouse is set up pretty well here that he can try to not run it into the jaws of a counterspell.
Oh boy.
Or maybe not.
2 amulets is bad news. Chamber. Tap. Tap. 5 mana floating right now. Should be 3 blue and 2 green. We know Dilks has Azusa in hand. There is Azusa. Looks like 1 blue, 1 green floating now. Yep. Now keep in mind 2 more land drops. And both of these land drops are going to provide 4 mana. So.
And Whitehouse is checking out the turn. I mean, if he had a way to respond,
You would have.
he would have seen something by now.
Uh-huh. 3 blue, 3 green floating. 1 land drop left here for Dilks. All right, it's going to be Simic Growth Chamber again. Let's call it 5 blue, 5 green now for Matt. He'll use a blue and a green. Summoner's Pact. This will be a Thought Scour in response. It better be a good Thought Scour, brother. Draw a card. Summoner's Pact is going to resolve. Prime time, baby. That's it. That's it. He knows he's beat because then Dilks can go absolutely wild with, of course, Boros Garrison and Slayer Stronghold, get more Titans, maybe find a Pact Negation, and we are done. Matthew Dilks going to win this game and match here over Evan Whitehouse, 2-0, Amulet Titan.